Hi folks, Dave with dbstechtalk. And today I want to discuss a couple of things that I get asked quite often and also get commented about quite often. Number one, I get asked often, hey, can you define what you mean by this term? And then usually a response is, I think you're using this term wrong. And then also I get asked, are you an objective or subjective? So let's take a look at that. First and foremost, check out the links down below. There's a link for the Audiophile audio glossary. This is on almost every single video that I've ever produced. And this is my guideline for terms and definitions, and also just where I've learned a majority of the information on my audiophile journey. So please check out the Audiophile audio glossary. I highly recommend it. Also, while you're down there, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And also check out the links for how you can support the channel, how you can contact the channel, and for musical recommendations, gear recommendations, all kinds of things are down there. So check out the links down below. All right, so let's get into it. Some descriptions real quick. A objective person, or a meter man, whatever you want to call them, is a person or audiophile who believes that measurements tell all you need to know about a component's performance. Or an audiophile who believes that all components that measure the same sound the same. And then a subjectivist is a person who has found that measurements don't tell the whole story about reproduced sound. If you've been following my channel and you have been watching any of my reviews, you're going to learn rather quickly that I'm a subjectivist. I do believe in measurements. I do believe in graphs. I think they're very important. But at the same time, I do not believe they tell the whole story. And I believe that there is more to it based on personal experience. All right, so let's go through the Audiophile audio glossary real quick. I'm just going to ramble off some terms here that stick out to me and that I use quite a bit in my reviews. I'm going to try to explain them rather quickly, and hopefully you'll understand me better as a reviewer, and you'll get to know me a little bit more and understand my reviews based off of this. So one term that I use quite a bit is aggressive. Aggressive is a sound that is excessively forward or bright. It's just very much in your face right there. Analytical. Analytical, it just means that something is very detailed, usually to the point of being excessive. You're just getting way too much information. Tone it down just a little bit. I don't need every single minute little detail type of deal. Analytical sound does have a place for it, though, especially in critical listening. All right, next, the word bright or brilliant. This is a very misused word, in my opinion. A lot of reviewers use it in the wrong terms. A lot of reviewers will use it as meaning the upper treble is a little forward, a little bit bright sounding. Oh, wow, there's a lot of treble in this. That is not correct. Brightness usually is referring to the 4 to 8K region, upper, mid, lower treble region. And it is a sound that is reproduced that has a hard, crisp edge. It's a hard, crisp edge of a sound, normally between 4K and 8K. Side note, most live music actually has a little bit of brightness to it. It's when it's excessive that it becomes a problem. It becomes fatiguing. But if you listen to a live recording, or if you've ever gone to a concert, or you've sat and listened to a piano or guitars, there is a little bit of a crisp, hard edge to the notes. But at the same time, it's very pleasing and sounds very natural. It's when it's enhanced, boosted, and it comes across in a very unnatural way that headphones will get referred to, or IEMs will get referred to, or gear will get referred to as being bright. Clean is there's no audible distortion. You can't hear anything. It's a very clean sound. Clinical, this is different than analytical. Clinical, it means that it's very pristine clean, but also it's very uninvolving. It's boring. It's just not engaging whatsoever. And I find this with a lot of the newer DACs and amps that are coming out, in which they're trying to be measurement beaters. I got to be the top dog with all these measurements, and I have to have the most bestest of the best measurement, the lowest number ever. And unfortunately, those become so pristine and clean that they do not sound natural, and they sound just, that to me, they sound uninvolved. It is boring, unengaging. Next word here. Let's go through my notes here. Definition or resolution. Definition or resolution. This is the quality of the sound being reproduced, which enables the listener to distinguish between or follow the melody all the way through. So you can take an instrument or a vocalist, hone in on it, and you can follow it all the way through the whole song. You can, or till they're no longer involved or whatever. And you can just hear it all the way through. You can follow it and track it. It's very defined, very noticeable. That's definition or resolution. Next word is flat. Flat. Now this gets used around, hey, this is a very flat and neutral sounding headphone or IEM, or hey, this is a very flat and neutral amp or DAC. And flat is having a subjectively uniform frequency response. Everything's even. It's free from humps, bumps, and dips. There's no wigglies all over the place. Now, it'll be a little bit wiggly, so you can never get a complete flat line. But you're not going to have any real high peaks or dips and cutouts. Usually, it's deficient and lacking in sound stage depth, and it results in in the impressions that all sound is the same. Everything sounds the same. There's nothing that's more accentuated, filled out, or anything. It's just very meh. Actually, most flat things will sound very boring. Focus is the sound is being clearly defined. It has sharply outlined images. Everything is very audible. You can really fine tune it and pick it out. You can hear everything in between, everything involved. It's very defined, focused. Forward. It's a quality of sound reproduced which places sounds closer than they really are. Something is just very accentuated. Usually you get this a lot in IEMs with the upper mids being a little more forward, a little more pronounced. Treble can also be that way. Next we have musical. Musical is a personal judgment to the degree to which a production or a reproduced sound resembles live music. It's subjective. It's how you and I perceive the recording and the gear that we're listening to make it sound accurate and euphonic and just live. And that falls into natural. Naturalism is realism, realistic. Do the instruments, do everything going around in it, the vocals and everything sound real, or do they sound like they're coming from something that's enhanced or boosted? Is it a natural sound? I'm actually in my audiophile journey searching for a natural sound. Neutral. This is free of colorization. There's nothing added in to maybe add a little bit of life to the mids or to accentuate the treble or to boost up the bass or to dip things out. It's a very free and clear of colorization. It's very neutral. One note bass. I use this quite a bit, especially with IEMs. And this is the exaggeration of a single note in the bass that normally overpowers the rest of the bass frequency, and it makes everything else sound the same. And it just overpowers that one note, overpowers everything, and everything just kind of jumbles together. Open is making things sound delicate, sounds airy, very finely detailed. and you have just this way, it just sounds like a breath of fresh air. Like there's no restrictions. A perspective is a soundstage depth information that is conveyed through layering. Being pinched is also something that I've said before, and it's where it pertains to the soundstage lacking space. It just sounds like everything's like right there. Presence is the quality of realism and aliveness. Things sound present. They sound realistic. They sound like you're right there in the presence of it. Pristine, as I mentioned, is very transparent and very clean sounding. The quality is the degree to which the sound is judged to approach the goal of perfection. So as I'm looking for a naturalism, does it have the quality of naturalism, and does it sound realistic? Is it getting me close to believing that I'm not using gear? Revealing is pertaining to outstandingly detailed and focused, analytical, pristine. You are going to get everything, and it doesn't matter what gear you're using, you're going to hear it. It's going to show everything for you. It's not going to hold anything back. Shrill. Shrill is, it's got a stridency to it. It's very steely or metallic sounding. It's not a very pleasant sound at all. Sibilance. This is another term that gets thrown around a lot. But it's actually the colorization that resembles or exaggerates the vocals, especially the S sound. And it'll exaggerate it and make it very fatiguing. Strident, which is a word that I just used, is a piercing, unpleasant. Sterile is pristinely clean, very uninvolving. It's usually found in amplifiers and DACs or in headphones that are very clean, sterile. They're too much. They're those measurement ones that I don't like. We're going to get into a couple of terms that get thrown around and are used very inaccurately. First and foremost, we're going to talk about tonality and tonal quality. Tonality is the quality of the instrument's tone. Does it sound real? Is it a good sound? Does it sound off? Is there something wrong with the tone of the instrument being reproduced? Tonal quality is the accuracy with which the reproduced sound replicates. So it's actually, tone is the actual notes. Does it sound like it's on key? Does it sound like it's properly tuned? And then the tonal quality is how does it reproduce it? And then another word that gets used wrong is timbre or timbre. I pronounce it timbre. And that's the recognizable characteristical sound signature of a musical instrument, which makes it possible to tell an instrument from another. You can tell an oboe from a flute when they're both playing the same note. There's a lot of headphones and IEMs that I've heard in which you can't tell the difference between it. And in fact, I've thought, oh man, that might be, that sounds like a violin. In actuality, it's not even a violin. Things like that. So timbre is important. It tells you exactly how an instrument sounds and is being reproduced. It gives you that characteristic. Uncolored is free from audible colorization. You find this a lot in amps and DACs. And that's kind of my list that I have gotten asked a lot about for describing, hey, what else do you mean by this? Can you explain this? Or I think you're using these terms wrong or definitions wrong. I go by Audiophile, Audio Glossary. You may or may agree or disagree. I understand that. You might have a different glossary that you go by. I highly recommend that if you want to understand me as a reviewer and understand my reviews, that you get to know me. I've put out several videos regarding this information, why I think the way I think, why I listen to what I listen to, how I do my review process, terms that I use, and things like that. Check out those videos. I'll link them down below, and then you can check it out. Learn about me. Learn what makes me tick as a reviewer, and hopefully you'll understand my reviews a little bit better as far as what I'm looking at. Now, I wish that everyone had the same ears as me, and then we could just all agree. But I understand we're all built differently, and we all have different ears. We also have different gear that we use, and we also have different musical preferences. And that makes a huge difference as well, which is why I list down what musical preferences I have, what playlists that I use in my reviews, and also what gear I recommend and what gear I use. I mention that quite often in reviews. This has been Dave with DBS Tech Talk. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you on the next video.